Mr. Reporter, we're ready to go.
We are on the record at 11:05.
Good morning. Welcome to the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City. Today is Tuesday, October 20th, 2020, 11 a.m. This is the board's WebEx virtual meeting. The board will be hearing violations today. I'm going to quickly go through a PowerPoint regarding the hearings this morning. Not that, actually. Bear with me. Actually, sorry, just having some technical difficulties on this side, bringing up the PowerPoint. There we go. It's coming up now. All right, there we go. Just quickly going through the outline of the packet. There is the Cisco WebEx is just an online meeting platform. There is a link on this packet that you can see that will take you to all of our docket notes and all of our hearing information. This link right here and the access code and the password will allow you to view on your smartphone, computer, or other similar device our proceedings. If you do not have access to a smartphone or tablet, you can dial in the number and the access code. The materials, evidence, and related items to the 1020 docket. If you see, there are copies of the short docket can be found on our link to baltimorecity.gov/hearing schedule for October 20th. You'll find all the materials online following that link. Just a note, for any evidence that is going to be presented to the board, there's a 48-hour rule for online hearings. All evidence should be submitted to Assistant Executive Secretary Stacy Russell in this hearing from 11 a.m. Sunday, October 18, 2020. Licensees should make all efforts to provide that documentation prior to that 11 a.m. October 18th deadline, because the board, if people attempt to submit evidence now, may have to postpone the case. After a preliminary reading of the instructions and calling of the cases, the board will have an evidentiary hearing. The board will ask the licensee if they are going to deny the allegations made in the case to put on their case as well as the board's case. The board will be asking questions. If there's a member of the public that wishes to provide testimony, I will give the cue and you can use the raise your hand function. That way I will make you a panelist. You'll have to turn on your video and your audio so you can be sworn in and give testimony. Once the board hears all of the evidence and testimony, the board will make a ruling and impose a sentence if applicable. Just general ground rules and helpful information for the hearing. Please, when your case is called, identify yourself and state the spelling of the name before you speak. Please speak slowly and in a clear voice so that the court reporter understands exactly what is being said and who is saying it. And please note that this event will run live on Charm TV and a court reporter will be present. Individuals that use profanity, are disrespectful, or unruly may be expelled from the virtual hearing. Again, it helps to be in a well-lit location when you're giving testimony because the board needs to see you, and in a quiet area so that there's no background noise. With that, Mr. Chair, I'm going to go into the first case on our docket, which is Myong Nam Kim and Yongdu Park. Yongnam Incorporated, trading as M&M Lounge, 2500 East Biddle Street. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, violation of Alcoholic Beverages Article 12905 D3 on July 29, 2020, and a violation of Rule 4.05B, prohibited hours, July 29, 2020. I'm going to be bringing in Mr. Previs, as well as Agents Clark and Agents Hahn. I would ask Agent Clark, Hahn, and Mr. Previs, please turn on your video footage. And your audio so that the court reporter can swear you in.
Good morning, Mr. Court Reporter, if you could swear in the witnesses.
Yes, sir. Who was that speaking? I'm sorry.
Commissioner Greenfield.
Greenfield, thank you. All right, will the witnesses who need to be sworn, please raise your right hand. And when I administer the oath, before you respond in the affirmative or negative, please state your name and then respond. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Agent Clark.
Thank you.
I do.
Your name?
Agent Steve Hahn.
Okay. Was that the only two?
Yeah, Mr. Previs, I assume, do you have any witnesses, Mr. Previs?
No, Mr. Chairman. The last time we had the hearing on M&M, the licensee had called in, but we lost him. He touched base with me yesterday to make sure that everything was okay, so I assumed that he was calling in. In any event, this hearing and the next are the legal arguments with regard to the Senate Bill 328. And if I may proceed without him in the interest of efficiency.
Absolutely, and we are in receipt of your memorandum, Mr. Previs.
Thank you, sir. Additionally, I don't know if you want to call the second case Cocky Lose. I have the licensee here as well with me in the office, or do them as separate hearings and incorporate the reference.
Yeah, Mr. Akris, unless you think otherwise, why don't we call the first case and then adopt the testimony and evidence from case 1 into case 2? Is that acceptable to everyone?
That would be acceptable as long as Mr. Previs isn't going to provide us with a fact witness where the facts are going to be dissimilar or make any different factual argument.
The facts are undisputed.
All right, so let's proceed with the first case, and then we'll just adopt everything in case, since the facts are not in dispute. Mr. Previs, would you like to proceed?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, as I said, the facts are undisputed. I just want to point out to the board that the date of this incident is July 29, 2020. Our prior hearing involved M&M Lounge as well as another location. And the second case here, Cocky Lose, it's the first violation. But my point is that the inspectors came prior to that August 4 hearing where we made the legal argument regarding the one subject rule. These cases are brought prior to 9 a.m. and the first two cases were brought after 10 p.m. The new statute indicating that establishments in this area can only open from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. So I just point that out. I submitted the memorandum, pretty much the memorandum I had submitted on the first case. I submit on the memorandum unless the board has any other questions. With regard to the M&M case, the board had made a ruling, and that case is on appeal, and there is an oral argument in December of this year in the Circuit Court for Baltimore City. So I submit the memorandum to preserve the record with regard to this case. I don't need to be heard additionally unless the board has any other questions, but I do press both issues, the one subject rule and the equal protection argument.
And so, if I understand your memorandum correctly, Mr. Previs, you're seeking a motion to dismiss based on 3 grounds. Is that right?
Actually, there's 2 arguments. The memorandum that I had prepared for the first hearing also had to do with charging an additional charge. That charge was not charged with regard to today's cases.
So you're referring to 12-2005?
Correct.
Okay, so really there are 2 issues before us in your memorandum, in your motion to dismiss. One is whether House Bill 954 in any way violates the one subject rule. And then the second issue is whether the bill violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and the Maryland Declaration of Rights. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. So based on this preliminary matter, I guess, Commissioner Jones, do you have any questions? You're on mute, sir.
I'll take care of that.
You're back on mute, Commissioner Jones.
None at this point.
Okay, great. So, Mr. Akers, I presume we can proceed on this preliminary matter unless there's anything else anyone else needs to be heard.
No, just a finding, factual finding, whether there was a violation or not, and ruling on the motion. Probably ruling on the motion first, then factual finding.
Right. So we'll roll on the motion first. In terms of the one subject rule, we're going to remain consistent as we did in M&M's previous case, and wherein we found and find in this case that the individual components of House Bill 954 were germane to licensing issues within the 45th legislative district, and accordingly, we do not find that House Bill 954 violates the one subject rule as fully explained in the Court of Appeals in Migdal versus State, found at 358 Maryland 308 in 1999. With respect to the violation of the Equal Protection Clause, we have considered Mr. Priebus's argument, but we declined to rule on the equal protection argument as we believe the licensee has failed to provide satisfactory record evidence to support its claim that the passage of House Bill 954 offends either the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution or Article 24 of the Maryland Declaration of Rights. Anything else, Mr. Priebus?
No, sir.
Okay.
Just with regard to the sanction, and that we are providing a bit of a public service in taking the lead here and challenging these laws in under proper procedure and in a respectful manner.
Yes, and we appreciate that. And Agent Clark, if you assume you were on the scene, were they cooperative?
Yes, sir. They were cooperative.
Great, thank you.
They closed immediately.
Okay, terrific. And I recognize your point, Mr. Priebus, with respect to the timing of this violation versus the previous one, and there didn't seem to be a notice given in between for the licensee. So I am of the opinion that based on the charging documents, the evidence before us, that I would find a violation of Alcoholic Beverage Article 12905D3 and would impose a $325 fine. I find a violation of Rule 4.05B, prohibited hours, and also impose a fine of $325.
I greatly apologize, Chairman Greenfield, but may I call out to the public to see if there are any members of the public that wish to give testimony in this matter?
My apologies, please do.
If there are any members of the public that wish to provide testimony in this case, please use the raise your hand function now. Mr. Chairman, I do not see any individuals that wish to give testimony in this matter. I apologize for the interruption.
No, thank you for raising that. My mistake. Go ahead, Commissioner Jones.
Yeah. I concur with Acting Chair Greenfield on both findings.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Priebus. Mr. Akers, you have a concluding remark?
I need to call the exhibits for the record.
Please do.
I call exhibits for the record. Exhibit number 1, violation report, Inspector Hahn. Exhibit number 2, House Bill 954. Licensee Exhibit 1, licensee memorandum. 2, Senate Bills 571, 328, and House Bill 954. And number 3, census report.
Mr. Priebus, please note that you'll be receiving correspondence in the mail regarding the board's decision and next steps for payment.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and with that, I'm going to just call the case, the second case, and I believe the board will just adopt the testimony and the findings from the first case. So I'm going to call that case now. Myung O'Reilly and Brian Ward Knight, AZ Plus Incorporated, trading as Cocky Lou's 2101 through 03 East North Avenue, is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, a violation of Alcoholic Beverages Article 12-905D3 on July 29, 2020, and a violation of Rule 4.05B, prohibited hours, July 29, 2020.
Great. We have, if everyone who intends to testify, which I'm not sure that people will testify on this bill, on this matter, would raise their right hands. Thank you. Right hand.
Hi, this is the court reporter. After I give the oath, if everyone who is going to respond can respond with their name first and then their response. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Agent Daryl Clark, I do.
I do.
Agent Stephen Hunt.
My name
I
is.
do.
My name is Kun Back. I do.
I'm sorry, what was that name?
I did the cabin back.
Could you spell that for the court reporter, Mr. Priebus?
Kevin, Kevin, Back, B-A-K.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Priebus, I assume as we have mentioned, this is the same, we're going to adopt the same evidence and facts from the first case. Is that accurate?
It is, Mr. Chairman. I first preliminarily want to explain that Mr. Back is the husband of Myung O'Reilly, one of the licensees and the owner, and he's appearing on her behalf.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Okay, so based upon the same set of facts, the same evidence, we too have considered the arguments made by the licensee's motion to dismiss and find that in terms of the one subject rule, that the individual components of House Bill 954 were germane to the licensing issues within the 45th legislative district, and accordingly, House Bill 954 does not violate the one subject rule as fully explained by the Court of Appeals in Migdal versus State, 358 Maryland 308. We also considered in the memorandum the same arguments for Mr. Priebus and declined to rule on the equal protection argument as the licensee has failed to provide satisfactory record evidence to support its claim that the passage of House Bill 954 offends either the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution or Article 24 of the Maryland Declaration of Rights. Agent Clark, were they cooperative?
Yes, acting Chair Greenfield, they actually were closed immediately when Agent Hahn and I went there. So there was no arguments and they were very cooperative.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Jones, do you have any questions?
No questions at all.
Thank you. Is anyone from the public wish to testify?
If there are any members of the public that wish to testify now, please use the raise your hand function. Mr. Chairman, I see no individuals that wish to provide testimony in this matter.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Akris. Okay, based upon the charging documents, the evidence before us, I find a violation of Alcoholic Beverage 12905D3 and would impose a $325 fine. I also find a violation of Rule 4.05B, prohibited hours, and would also impose a $325 fine with 30 days to pay. Commissioner Jones?
I concur with both findings by Acting Chair Greenfield.
I'd like to call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, violation report, Agent Clark. Exhibit number 2, violation report, Agent Clark. Exhibit number 3, House Bill 954. Licensee Exhibit 1, licensee memorandum. Licensee number 2, Exhibit number 2, Senate Bill 571-328 and House Bill 954. And Exhibit number 3, census report.
Mr. Priebus, you will be receiving correspondence via mail regarding the board's decision and next steps for payment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to check if the individual for case number 3 is logged on yet. As of now, I do not see him. With your permission, Mr. Chair, can we move to case number 4 because we are ready for that case, and Mr. Previs represents that licensee.
Yes, let's proceed with Mr. Previs's.
Can I have one moment to switch clients, but go ahead.
Absolutely.
Calling case number 4, Jason Munoz and Marilyn Munoz, El Rincon, Troncaliano, LLC, trading as El Rincon, Troncaliano, 422 through 26 South Macon Street. There's a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, a violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct on August 10th, 2020, a violation of Rule 3.12, general welfare on August 10th, 2020, a violation of Rule 3.12, general welfare on August 12th, 2020, a violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct on August 12th, 2020. I need to bring on Agent Perez, who is joining us now. Agent Perez, we have Agent Perez there.
I'm here.
Previous ready. Believe we have all parties for this case.
Mr. Court Reporter, if you could swear in the witnesses.
Certainly can. Can you raise your right hand? And after I administer the oath, before your response, can you state your name and then give your response? Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Agent Perez, I do.
Agent Daryl Clark, I do.
Thank you.
Say your name and say it.
Marilyn Munoz, I do.
Jackson Munoz, I do.
Mr. Previs, will this be an admission or a denial?
A denial, sir.
Okay. Agent Perez, Agent Clark, whoever is prepared, please go through the statement of charges.
It is for both incidents.
Let's do, unless Mr. Previs has and would like to split them up, I'm happy with doing both incidents.
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. At approximately 10:29 hours on August 10, 2020, complaint number 20-00526765 and 20-00526766 and 20-00526772 were received for 422-26 South Macon Street for alleged employee not wearing mask, disturbing the peace, front door open, loud music, loud patrons, and outdoor hearing area. I, Agent Perez, along Agent Clark, responded to the complaint approximately 11:30 p.m. Upon arrival, I witnessed a loudspeaker placed outside of the curb, blasting music that could be heard from over a block away. I also observed several tables, chairs, and a tent set for outdoor table service placed on the sidewalk in front of the side of the establishment. Hold on one second. Several individuals were observed consuming beverage from glass beer containers. After making this observation, I spoke to the owner, Jackson Munoz, and asked him if he had obtained a liquor license extension from the BLLC in order to provide alcoholic beverage service outdoors. Mr. Munoz stated that he applied and was waiting for the required city permits to obtain the liquor license extension. I instructed Mr. Munoz to cease all alcoholic beverage service outdoors until the liquor license extension was issued. At this time, patrons were instructed to leave the premise and all chairs and tables were removed by the establishment staff. I informed Mr. Munoz that a violation for loud music and outdoor table service without authorization was being issued. Now moving on to the August 12th violation. On August 12, 2020, your rider was conducting business check along Eastern Avenue for the purpose of making sure that all licensed establishments were abiding with Mayor Order dated 8/7/2020, prohibiting indoor dining service after 10 p.m. within the city of Baltimore. At approximately 11:05 p.m., I arrived at 422 South Macon Street, known as El Rincón Roncaleno. I observed the front door open, lights on, music playing, and several individuals in the interior of the establishment. After making this observation, I proceeded into the interior of the establishment and confirmed there were approximately 8 patrons inside the establishment consuming alcoholic beverage and foods. I met the licensee, Mr. Munoz, who looked shocked from my presence, and asked him why he was allowing indoor dining service past 10 p.m. Mr. Munoz stated that he was not aware of the time and got carried away. He further stated that business was low throughout the day and that he decided to stay open past 10 p.m. to make some extra money. I explained to Mr. Munoz that he was in violation of Mayor's order, and I departed the establishment without any further incidents.
Thank you. You have any questions for Agent Perez, Mr. Previs?
I do not, Mr. Chairman. I will have the licensee explain what was going on with regard to both August 10th and August 12th.
Okay. Agent Perez, do they have approval for outdoor for live entertainment yet?
No.
No. Okay. And so you returned August 10th. Let me look. I want to make sure we know which day of the week August 10th was. I want to understand. So you went on August 10th, which was a Monday, and then you returned on a Wednesday under it looks like very similar circumstances. And yet Mr. Munoz, the licensee, didn't seem to correct it or continue the same pattern. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Commissioner Jones, do you have any other questions?
I have something to add. On August 10th, operations was taking place outdoors without permit. And August 12th, the operations was taking place indoors, violating the mayor's order.
Gotcha. Thank you. Commissioner Jones, do you have any questions?
None. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Previs, would you like to put on any evidence?
Yes, if I could first, I want to get Agent Perez to elaborate that, to make it clear that there are 2 different issues going on the 10th and the 12th.
2 separate issues.
Yeah, Agent Perez, although they're identical charges of violation of rules 4.16 and 3.12, illegal conduct of general welfare, the issue on the 10th was you got a complaint for speakers outside. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and when you told Mr. Munoz he was not supposed to have speakers outside, he took them down, right?
Yeah, he ceased the music outside and all operations. It was 2 issues: loud music and operating without a permit.
Without the issuance of the permit, right. And then the second time you were there on the 12th, the issue was that the mayor's August 7 executive order had just gone into effect that said for indoor operations you must cease at 10 o'clock. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, and that threw off again, the same identical charges, 3.12 and 4.16,
Yes.
right? Okay, I have no further questions. I just wanted to clarify.
Thank you, Mr. Previs. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Would you like to proceed, Mr. Previs?
Thank you. I'd like to call Ms. Marilyn Munoz, who is the daughter of the licensee Jackson Munoz.
Okay.
Ms. Munoz, you've been sworn just now? Okay. First, I want you to address with regard to the August 10, 2020 issue with regard to the TMP permit. You were trying to obtain that permit on behalf of the business. Is that correct? Keep your voice up. Okay, and we submitted as documents that you had applied online to the DHCD e-permits program to attempt to obtain that outdoor permit. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And were you successful in obtaining that permit?
No, I never got a response.
Did you contact me with regard to how to get a response?
Yes.
And what did I advise you with regard to going online?
To keep messaging them. I messaged a couple of people and even off my personal email because I never got a response. And I also called multiple times and I never got a response. We paid the money for it and never received a permit, never received a email back or anything.
Okay, so it's just so it's clear, you on the e-permits site or screen, you hit the send message on several occasions requesting that you had clearances from Health, Fire, and DOT, and still no word about the permit. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay, and then finally, you text message Agent McGinnis. Is that correct?
Yes.
And he text messaged you back on the 10th that they were having issues because of COVID with getting people to respond to these permits, and told you that he would notify the liquor board and Vice to go ahead and open. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, but you understand that technically that does not provide for outdoor alcohol until you were to get that permit and submit that letter and approval to the liquor board for that purpose. You understand that now? Okay. I have no further questions with regard to that issue, Mr. Chairman, and if you'd like to ask Ms. Munoz any questions about that.
Okay, thank you. So Ms. Munoz, you attempted to get these permits after the August 10th event, is that right?
I've been trying to get them since prior to that. I think it was, give me a second. July the 29th.
Okay. All right.
Oh, July 27th, yeah.
And we have received Mr. Previous text messages and they will be admitted. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Jones, any questions about the August 10th event?
You talked to the person in housing in reference to your permit, and that person told you to go ahead, open up and operate. Did you get a name of that person?
Mr. McGinnis, David McGinnis, I believe it was.
Did he give you something in writing?
He did. I believe I have the text messages. And then I have a chain email from him and then other people that I talked to.
I mean, the person that said, I want to see something in writing that say that you can open up without actually having a permit.
Mr. Commissioner Jones, we did submit his text message reply.
I'm looking at it now. I'm trying to see if I could. This is. Help me locate it exactly where it is on your viewing.
Okay, on the second page of the screenshot of the text messages, top left it says 11:20, and at the bottom paragraph it says from David McGinnis, DHCD, August 10. Good afternoon. The permit manager, Peggy White, will not be back in the office until tomorrow. I have not heard back from anyone regarding your permit application. I spoke to my assistant commissioner, who said we are giving leeway because of the delay in issuing permits. She advised we are allowing the outdoor seating to proceed pending issuance of the permit. I have forwarded her message to Vice and to the, I might have lost the rest of it, but it said liquor board.
That's good enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess Mr. Previous, it still would require a letter from the liquor board, though, right, to effectuate the permit.
It does. My line of questioning may be more appropriate for mitigation than to request outright dismissal, but it's all one and the same argument, Mr. Chairman.
Fair enough. Thank you, Mr. Previs. Any questions with respect to the August 12th incident? Any questions of Ms. Munoz, Mr. Previs?
Nothing further. I'm going to ask Mr. Munoz very briefly about the speakers and on the August 10th, and then that would be the conclusion of any evidence or testimony.
Okay, please proceed.
Okay. Mr. Munoz, you were sworn. Can the camera see him?
Yes.
You were sworn already. You can put your hand down. Okay. Now, on August 10th, you had a speaker outside. Is that correct? Did you ever have outdoor table service before with regard to this
Make
establishment?
sure he speaks up.
Before COVID, did you ever have tables outside or have people outside?
No.
Okay. And you put a speaker out there, right? And when they told you that's not allowed, you took it down?
I take it right away.
Okay, and you understood that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, with regard to the staying open past 10 o'clock on August 12th, okay, did you understand at that point the mayor's order that says inside must close at 10?
No.
You weren't sure at that point?
No.
Okay, but now you know,
I know.
and you're not doing that anymore?
Yeah, that's what I did. That's close all the time. Family.
Okay, I have no further questions of Mr. Munoz.
Okay. Agent Perez, were they cooperative?
Yes, it were.
Okay. Commissioner Jones, any further questions?
None.
Okay. So this is a licensee with a pretty bad record. And
Mr. Commissioner, may I be heard just very briefly with regard to the charging?
of course, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. With regard to the August 12th incident, there's two violations, 4.16 and 3.12. The issue is closing at 10 p.m., which is clearly what the mayor's executive order stated. I believe that is a violation of 4.16 and not 3.12. It is the mayor's executive order that should be complied with, and even though a criminal charge might require a willful violation, a liquor board violation has no such requirement that I'm aware of, and I would concede that. But I don't think it's a general welfare violation because COVID affects us before 10 o'clock as much as it affects us after 10 o'clock. That's the only motion that I have with regard to these matters.
Yeah, I appreciate your motion. I'm gonna deny it, as to Rule 3.12 on August 12, 2020.
With regard, I'm sorry.
No, please.
Thank you. With regard to mitigation, I advised at the August 4th hearing that Mr. Munoz had come to me with regard to getting the live entertainment issue cleaned up. These are very difficult and difficult times, and perhaps for other people, they're home and don't have anything to do, but for the people in our business and restaurants and bars, it is very, very busy and very difficult trying to keep up with what is and what is not required. So I would like the board to take into consideration that these are hard times and these are sometimes complicated issues for non-attorneys who are not keeping up with every last statement of what is going on. So yes, he does have prior record. Yes, he has contacted me with regard to cleaning those up. But as far as getting the proper TMP permit, it's been difficult for everybody. Even an Albert Einstein would have difficulty with this. And I thank you for your consideration.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Davis. Any public testimony, Mr. Akers?
If there are any individuals from the public who wish to give testimony in this case, please use the raise your hand function now so I can impanel you as a witness. Mr. Chair, I see no individuals that wish to give public testimony at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Priebus, I take your argument with respect to these are hard times and the changing and evolving rules that licensees are facing. And that's one of the reasons why, quite frankly, we have not been giving fines that are particularly hard, because we recognize that this is a really difficult and challenging time. Having said that, this is a licensee that seems to just do things without checking with you or with the liquor board to make sure that they're permitted. So based upon the charging documents, the testimony and evidence, I find a violation of Rule 4.16 illegal conduct on August 10th, 2020. I would impose a $200 fine. I find a violation of Rule 3.12 general welfare and would impose a $200 fine. I find a violation of Rule 3.12 on August 12, 2020 and would impose a $200 fine. And find a violation of Rule 4.16 on August 12th and would also impose a $200 fine. 30 days to pay. Commissioner Jones?
I too are aware of the hard times that we are going through, and but I concur with the acting chair on both fines, and you just got to do better.
Ms. Russell?
I posted this for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Investigation Report, Agent Perez. Board Exhibit 2, Investigation Report, Agent Perez. Board Exhibit 3, Mayor's Executive Order dated 8/7/2020. Exhibit number 4, Governor's Executive Order dated 6/10/2020. Exhibit number 5, Liquor Board Complaint Database. 6, Liquor Board Complaint Database. 7, Liquor Board Complaint Database. Licensee Exhibit 1, email from Attorney P. Priebus dated 10/18/20.
Mr. Priebus, please note that the board's decision and next steps for payment will be mailed to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to the board.
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Priebus, that you don't have any more cases before the board, correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I still do not see anybody for case number 3. I am going to call case number 5 and then case number 6, unless you have any concerns or questions.
No, let's get to those who are present, and then we'll call case number 3 last.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Gurpreet Singh, G&S 3724 LLC, trading as Main Street Bar and Liquors. This is case number 5, 3724 Eastern Avenue. It's a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, a violation of Rule 4.16 illegal conduct on July 26, 2020. A violation of Rule 3.12 general welfare on July 26, 2020. A violation of Rule 3.01 ownership and operation on July 26, 2020. A violation of Rule 4.16 illegal conduct on August 15, 2020. And violation of Rule 3.12 general welfare on August 15, 2020. I am now going to bring in police and liquor board personnel. I believe that's everyone. That is all the inspectors. And I have one more question. I'm going to unmute. Chief Chrysomalis, were you involved in this case too? I just unmuted you, Chief. Were you involved in this case?
Can you hear me?
Chief, were you involved?
I might have been there. However, Agent Perez wrote the violation.
Okay. All right. I believe I've impaneled all members who are going to be presenting testimony in this case.
Thank you. Mr. Kadinsky, how are you? Good morning.
Very good. Thanks for asking. Now, when you get old like me, nobody asks anymore.
Well, some of us do care, Mr. Kadinsky. Don't forget. Mr. Court Reporter, if you could swear in the witnesses. Thank you.
If you can raise your right hand after I administer the oath. Before your response, if you could individually state your name and then give your response. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Agent Perez, I do.
Agent Steve Hahn, I do.
Agent Daryl Clark, I do.
Detective Gatto, I do.
Sergeant Leisure, I do.
Mr. Kudinski, would your client like to?
I don't know that we're going to have any testimony from them. Mainly it's going to be argument. Since these are COVID violations, just for the record, as I mentioned once before, that the governor's order has determined we would make an argument that's unconstitutional pursuant to the case that happened in the Western District of Pennsylvania. I submitted that to the board, to all the members to look at. Is case of County of Butler versus Thomas Wolf, who was the governor, civil action number 220, number 64077. And it was declared that the governor's order, much like this one here, was unconstitutional. Just submit on that. I'm not going to make a big argument on it.
I'm going to deny your motion. So based on that,
I'm going to go ahead and make an admission as to the facts in the case. The only one that I would, on July 26, Rule 301, we would have some argument to ownership and operation, but other than that, we would submit.
okay, would you like to be heard on the ownership and operation?
Only thing that I would say is that and you may or may not remember because you do a lot of these cases. Last week, we had a hearing for hardship extension for the completion of the transfer of this license. All three of the persons were here. The hardship was granted. This has been pending since early in the year, and they've been having a tough time getting all the approvals from the various departments, including taxing authorities, which we've pretty much gotten that taken care of. In the interim, because the place was closed and Mr. Singh wanted to complete it, they entered into a management agreement, and the three individuals who were approved by the board were the ones who were actually running the business and managing for Mr. Gurpreet Singh. So to that extent, it may have been a technical violation of operation, but they were there operating in his behalf.
Okay. Jim Perez, Agent Clark, were they cooperative?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, please.
And then to finish up, that since they had been in there operating, they have applied, and it's a little bit of a maze to figure out how to do when you apply for a temporary permit. They did apply later. Once they found out they needed a temporary permit for the outdoor, I submitted that to the board. That should be in their packet. They were approved by the fire department. They didn't realize they had to get approval from the liquor board, which they're now remedying that situation. They're being new to the situation. They were trying to get some money coming in, so they could proceed. They have, however, and I think it should be in your packet, they have met numerous times with the community, and Mr. Kirk Wiggins had submitted a letter. I don't know if you have it in your packet or not, but they had indicated these new individuals have worked very hard with the community to meet the community needs. They have brought in better product. They have hosted a meeting there. They've also been regulars in the trash removals and neighborhood struggles regarding waste accumulation. They hosted a community association meeting in their bar to brainstorm methods to decrease panhandling and trash accumulation, and offered local events. They've been he indicated that he visited the store and sees that there's been a great increase in change in the way the business is operated. So I would like the board to take that into consideration. I just talked to them today, and they said they're probably maybe 4 or 5 steps not big steps away from completing the transfer. And they intend to abide by all the rules and regulations of the Liquor Board.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kudinski. Commissioner Jones, do you have any questions?
None.
Okay. Any questions from or testimony from the public, Mr. Akers?
If there are any individuals that wish to provide testimony in this case, please use the raise your hand function. I will impanel you as a witness. I do not see any individuals who wish to give testimony in this case.
Okay, thank you. On the basis of the charging documents, the evidence before us, I found a violation of Rule 4.16 illegal conduct on July 26, 2020. This is a licensee with a pretty terrible record as well. I would impose a $200 fine as to that violation. I find a violation of Rule 3.12 on July 26, 2020, and would impose a $200 fine. I find a violation of Rule 3.01, ownership and operation on July 26, 2020, and would impose a $200 fine. I also find a violation of Rule 4.16 on August 15, 2020, and would impose a $200 fine. And lastly, I find a violation of Rule 3.12 on August 15, 2020, it would impose a $200 fine with 30 days to pay.
Thank you.
I also concur with Chair in reference to the findings on July 25th as well as July 26th as well as August the 15th.
Right, call exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, Violation Report, Agent Perez. Board Exhibit 2, Violation Report, Agent Perez. Board Exhibit 3, Mayor's Executive Order dated 7/22/20. 4, Governor's Executive Order dated 6/10/20. Licensee Exhibit 1, Temp Use Permit. Exhibit 2, Letter of Support from Highlandtown Community Association.
Mr. Kudinski, you will be mailed correspondence providing you with a copy of the board's decision and next steps for payment.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Kudinski, you do not have any other cases, correct?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. On the next case on the docket, which is Angela Winder, Red Niwa Incorporated, trading as The Place, 315 West Franklin Street. There's a Class D beer, wine, and liquor license. It's a violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct, on July 31st, 2020, and a violation of Rule 3.08A, sanitation and safety, July 31st, 2020. I'm now just going to be impaneling those witnesses. We already have the police department, and I'm bringing on Inspector Tudhope and Miss Winder. And I'm bringing on Detective Greenhill, who is present as well.
Great. Miss Winder.
If Ms. Winder, if you could turn on your video footage and your audio.
I think I just do it. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Ms. Winder. For all those who will testify, please raise your right hand.
As a court reporter, when I administer the oath, when you respond, can you state your name prior to your response? Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Agent Perez, I do.
Take the green.
Inspector Tudhope, I do.
Sergeant Leisure, I do.
Have we heard from everyone? Ms. Winder, did we hear from you?
I thought you did, but
I may not have heard you, but that's okay. Thank you. All right, let's begin. So, Ms. Winder, you've been charged with a violation of Rule 4.16, illegal conduct, and Rule 3.08A, sanitation and safety, on July 21st, in violation of the governor and mayor's executive order, as well as an outdoor table permit. Do you admit or deny these charges?
admit with explanation, however.
What's that? You admit the what?
I admit, but I do have an explanation as to why. Guilty.
We love explanations. Please explain.
I too, as everyone else has explained, was challenged with getting the TMP. I went on to DHCD, I applied, and I was waiting for them to respond. However, I never got a response, and I wasn't sure how the process worked. So yes, I am guilty of having the outdoor seating.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Commissioner Jones, do you have any questions?
None in reference to the tent permit. How about the trash?
Trash? I'm not aware of any.
Sanitation and safety?
It appears that the same explanation was given for that as it was given for illegal conduct. So there wasn't a trash issue for me.
Yeah.
If I could, Commissioner Jones, the reason why 3.08A was charged was because it states licensees shall operate their establishments in accordance with the requirements of the Department of Housing and Community Development, the Police Department, and any other applicable city, state, or federal laws, rules, or regulations. In this case, the allegation is that Ms. Winder did not obtain a permit from the Department of Housing and Community Development in order to have the outdoor table service. So it was a violation of 3.08A.
I'm good. I see the safety part. I'm good. Thank you.
Now, Ms. Winder, have you since received that permit?
I have, yes.
Good. Okay, great. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Any testimony from the public, Mr. Akris?
If there are any individuals from the public who wish to give testimony in this case, please use the raise your hand function. Mr. Chair, I do not see any individuals that wish to provide testimony in this case.
Great. Detective Greenhill, can you comment on whether they were cooperative?
I'm sure she was. She's always cooperative.
Okay, good. Thank you. I get that sense. So, Ms. Winder, you have a great record. You've been a licensee at this location since 1991, and the license was transferred in 2005 with you still on the license, and you've had no violations. I recognize, as I have in the other cases, that this is confusing and evolving, and it's hard to keep up with. So, based upon the testimony, the charging documents, the evidence before me, I find a violation of Rule 4.16 illegal conduct on July 31st, 2020. I would impose a $50 fine. I find a violation of Rule 3.08A, sanitation safety, and would also impose a $50 fine with 30 days to pay.
Chair's findings for July 31st, 2020.
Clinical exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, violation report from Inspector Perez. Board Exhibit 2, Mayor's Executive Order. Exhibit number 3, Mayor's Executive Order. That's it. Thank you.
Ms. Winder, you will be provided with correspondence via U.S. mail regarding the board's decision and next steps for payment.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to recall case number 3. I don't think I ever called it, but I can call it now. I do not see any individuals who are present on behalf of the licensee, but I will bring and impanel our witnesses once Ms. Russell confirms notice via our summons. Terry Lee Kaufman, Olga Kaufman, and Barbara Manfred, 110 Water Street Series 274 LLC, trading as Sapano's Steakhouse, 110 Water Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, a violation of Rule 3.09B, restroom facilities and health regulations on August 16th, 2020. I'm now bringing on Inspector Tudhope and Ms. Liggins from the Health Department.
And the summons was delivered on September 29th, and it was signed by Mr. Stevenson.
Okay, thank you. All right, all those who intend to testify, please raise your right hand.
After I give, after I state the oath, if you could respond with your name before you actually respond to your oath. I'm sorry, there's a lot of people. Someone needs to mute their mic.
If you are not speaking, please mute yourself.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to repeat. After I state the oath, when you give your response, if you can state your name first and then give your response. Do you swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the answers that you give and the statements that you make will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Inspector Tarup, I do.
Comita Liggins, I do.
Thank you, Ms. Liggins. Okay, so Inspector Tudhope, would you like to read the statement of charges?
Yes, sir. At 6:14, complaint number 2000547855 was received for Soprano Steakhouse at 110 Water Street for opening and operating on 8/15/2020 and 8/16/2020 while being closed by the Health Department on 8/14/2020. I, Inspector Tarup, responded at 6:45 p.m. and observed the establishment open. I observed 2 tables outside with 5 patrons and 2 tables with 3 patrons dining inside the establishment. I made contact with Mr. Ali Sahin, who was unable to provide Inspector with any proof that the health department had given permission to reopen. Mr. Ali stated that he believed he could reopen after the plumbing issue that caused closure was addressed and had sent in paperwork to the health department, but had not received no reply. Inspector informed Mr. Ali he was in violation and instructed him to close immediately. Mr. Ali complied and instructed his staff to close out all tabs. Establishment closed without further incident.
Thank you, Inspector Tudhope. Ms. Liggins, do you have anything else to add?
Not necessarily. I would wait for any questions that you need to be answered.
Yeah, Ms. Liggins, let me ask you a question. If there's feedback from your end, Ms. Liggins. Thank you. Ms. Liggins, do you know if the health department did in fact clear the licensee before August 16th, as apparently the licensee is alleging?
They were not cleared, no.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Liggins. I appreciate that. Commissioner Jones, do you have any questions? Commissioner Jones, do you have any questions? No? You're muted now.
Oh, look at us.
I think, Commissioner Jones, you're muted. Can you start over, please?
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Inspector Tudhope, was the licensee cooperative?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any public testimony, Mr. Akers?
Are there any members of the public that wish to provide testimony in this case? If you do, please use the raise your hand function so I can impanel you. Mr. Chair, I see no individuals that wish to give testimony in this case.
Okay, thank you. On the basis of the testimony and the evidence before us, I'm frankly a little bit troubled that they weren't cleared as they alleged, as they claimed. I find a violation of Rule 3.09B on August 16, 2020, and would impose a fine of $300 with 30 days to pay.
I concur with the chair's findings for August the 16th, 2020.
I'd like to call exhibits for the record. Exhibit number 1, violation report, Inspector Tudhope. Exhibit number 2, 311 complaint database printout.
A copy of the board's decision and fine will be mailed to the licensee. Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I believe that completes our morning docket. The board will be in recess until Thursday, October 22nd, 2020. October 22nd, 2020 at 11 a.m.
Thank you, everyone. Very much appreciated.
Thank you. We're off the record at 12:10.